Welcome aboard here, folks, to Fox Sports on the Road. I'm your host, Michael Cohen. Well, as a lot of people know right now with ice hockey, the New York Rangers are in the midst of their playoff run as they're trying to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But in this area, in New Jersey, a team has already won a title, and that is the New Jersey Titans, a Tier 2 junior ice hockey team out of the North American Hockey League. They advanced for the first time ever to the Robertson Cup final and won 3-0 over the Anchorage Wolverines back on May 24th. Joining us today to talk about that is their head coach and their general manager, Craig Doremus. Craig, how are you doing? Welcome to the program.
I'm doing well. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Craig, let's start off talking about your thoughts. You're 2 weeks removed from winning the title, NAHL title. How have you been able to soak it all in since winning it?
It's funny. I've been asked that many a times, and I think it's unique the way our league works. It's very similar to the National Hockey League, where the teams that play the longest have to almost take a step back, work on a little bit of off-season work first, and then maybe reflect. So what I'm getting to for us is, as we sit here and talk this Wednesday, on Friday, we actually have our first tryout camp coming up for next season. And then next Wednesday is the entry draft for our league, which is a big part of our roster construction as well. So for me, it kind of went from winning, enjoying it for a little bit, and then the focus really shifted right away towards preparing for next season. I wanted to make sure we weren't late. Obviously, winning it once is great. Winning it twice is real nice. So for us, it was about shifting right away towards the camp this upcoming weekend, the draft next week. And then what I really want to do after that is be able to sit back and reflect and enjoy kind of what we just went through together, and reflect on, how good it was and the stories that went into it. And then obviously start doing some coachable moments within my own staff about what do we do well and what can we improve on moving forward.
So it's a very intense process. I mean, obviously, you're beginning almost right away. As soon as the season ends, the plans for next season begin almost immediately.
Yeah, correct. It's nonstop. And I'm lucky enough to work with, I believe is the best staff in hockey. The guys work tirelessly in terms of making sure our program is always at the forefront of excellence. I think our standards have been raised significantly internally for us, and that makes us better as a program, looking from the outside in. And the work ethic is tireless. These guys just put in so many hours to not only get us where we are now, but I think to raise our program to a standard that we want it to be consistently year after year. So it's nonstop, and I'm surrounded by great people who have a lot of passion for what they do and are really gifted at what they do.
Before we talk about the players, and again, so it comes down to the players and how they execute, and they were tremendous this year. You mentioned your staff, your coaching staff. Can you talk more about what kind of work they put together to get these guys through weekly practices, daily practices, making sure that they were on time for meetings, everything that had to be done on a daily and weekly basis?
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that. Like, as I've gone through some of these interviews, people often ask about like what's it feel like, and I think the biggest thing I've taken from a lifelong sports fan is you watch other teams in sports win championships, you listen to post-game interviews, and then it takes in, like, the biggest thing that stands out to me is it takes a village. Like, to make this happen and to win a championship at any level in any sport, it's not just about a single person, a single coach. Like, and for us, we're run like an NHL organization. We have athletic trainers who are unbelievable people. Our equipment manager and equipment staff. We have, like you mentioned, the coaches. We have a strength and conditioning staff, and we have a strength and conditioning facility within our own gym that I think helps separate us from our opponents and quite frankly, other competitors that we have. These people have been excellent at what they do. And what I've enjoyed is working with them for many years is there's always a time after the year where we sit back and say, what have we done really well? And we want to continue to improve on, and what do we have to get better at in order to take the next step as an organization. And I think everyone's been able to do that. The lack of ego has allowed everyone to work collaboratively and collectively towards a common goal. And that's been some of the most fulfilling things here over the past 2 weeks or so since the championship, has just been seeing everyone enjoy being part of the process. And that's something I wanted to make sure was apparent to anyone who was involved. Obviously, when you win, your phone blows up and you get so many congratulations or well wishes. And what I just kept reiterating to everyone, and it wasn't a blanket, this is for everyone. This is for everyone who's worked with our program, who's had their hands on our program, been involved and supported us, from former players to former staff, and obviously all the current personnel that we have there. Just having them be part of this success story and kind of the success posse and helping us get to this point here has been the most fulfilling for me as the head coach and general manager.
Absolutely. All teams have unique stories, and you touched on a lot of it. And I think from the standpoint of players, the players that you especially were able to acquire over the course of the season, and it really kind of changed from where you were at the beginning of the year in July, and then of course in September when you were really getting into camp, to where you were at the end of the season, making a couple of big trades. You bring in Andrew Takas, who was your goalie, on a big trade with North Iowa. You then make another deal with North Iowa. You bring in Chris Carroll and Ryan Coughlin, and all these guys, all of them, even bringing back Anthony Calafiore, who was a veteran, all of them played a huge role towards in the playoffs in the postseason.
Yeah, it's funny how it works out. When we had gotten done with the month of September, we sat as a staff and we were not happy or pleased with the product that we had on the ice across all zones. Like, everyone was to blame. Let's put it that way. I think that's probably the best way to put it. We knew we had to improve. We were able to go out and acquire Andrew with a deal shortly thereafter, right after the Blaine Showcase in September. He came in, met the team in Johnstown, and really stabilized that part of the ice for us. It was a calming influence, a veteran player who is extremely driven and motivated to not only win, but to advance his own hockey career. And I think, I remember after his first start with us in Jamestown, we won the game, and I turned to the coaches. I said, now we can win. I just felt he was going to give us a chance day in and day out. I felt he would be such a great mentor for our young goaltender, Ben Charette, that it was kind of the perfect potion there. As time went on, we started to play much better hockey after we got Andrew. There was an opportunity for us to trade and acquire Chris Carroll and Ryan Coughlin, two players I was very familiar with from their times in both youth and minor hockey throughout their junior hockey careers. Both had been extremely successful. What I really liked is that they were both leaders in North Iowa and wore letters. And I thought that was going to be an important part of the formula in terms of not only integrating them into a winning locker room and culture at that point, but more so about helping us take that next step even and going to chase down an Eastern Division title and a Robertson Cup. So those guys came in and fit in seamlessly from day one. They had some prior relationships with the players, which I think made the transition easier. But I also think they were both unsure. They were coming from North Iowa, where they were obviously big parts of an organization there, to come into the East Coast. And I think they were unsure about the trade. And obviously it ended up paying off in spades for all parties involved. And then, we go and acquire Billy Fetzko from Shreveport at the trade deadline in February. And Billy's a player who I had admired from afar since early last year. And I watched him go through a Robertson Cup championship pursuit last year with Shreveport. And I thought he was such an integral part of their winning and what he did on and off the ice. And then he came in here and, I think it couldn't have worked out more perfectly. Obviously, he played his best hockey in the playoffs. We joked with him we were going to get playoff Billy T-shirts made because he just turned his game up a level. And it's not necessarily just the goals and assists, which I think everyone could see. It was more about the little detail plays, the managing of pucks in situations, as well as that experience of having won a title and what it takes to get there, as opposed to, not giving up when times are hard or maybe just taking the easy way out. So, I think all those guys you had mentioned, that Callie comes back to us early in the year. David Posma comes back to us early in the year. And I think, it's funny, end the year with 26 guys, and Silas Overting was on the injured reserve, but even him and the other 25 active players all played really unique, big roles in making this happen. And that's something I want to stress to all of them, because unfortunately the rules dictate you can't have all those guys on the ice at a given time. But I thought it typified our team. When we got the cup on the ice after the game, or we were celebrating, on the ice after the game, I turned to my right and I happened to see all those guys who weren't in the lineup that day coming onto the ice in their full uniform. And to me, that's exactly what our team was about. I've watched many a team win this, and the guys who aren't in the lineup get on the ice and they're in their suits and their ties and they're celebrating for sure. But they just feel a little bit different. Whereas with us, those guys had the wherewithal and the professionalism to go get their gear on and get on the ice there. And I know our owner had given them a nudge to make sure they were on the ice, and they were concerned. They said, well, Craig's going to get mad if we don't video the game. And he said, don't worry about the last 3 minutes video. Craig's never going to watch this. So I was happy he nudged them. I was happy. I was more happy to see them on the ice, and I think it typified exactly what our organization's about. It's about everyone.
It really is. And you guys had a number of a couple of big overtime games. That's just in the playoffs. Can you just talk about, because you guys had your backs to the wall a couple of times against the Ice Wolves as well, especially the Ice Wolves. Just talk about that, just going before even getting to a championship game.
I don't know if you could win if you don't go through that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, you look at it now, and obviously everyone watched the NHL, and the Colorado Avalanche are just having an amazing Stanley Cup run right now. And you could argue maybe they haven't been challenged, but for most teams, as you get to that championship destination, you have to be challenged and you have to be able to deal with that adversity, and you grow from it. I think I don't. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you got a lot of lucky bounces." Luck. I don't think it was luck. I really don't. I think it was a lot of conviction. I know the guys will bust my shoes. It was a lot of stick to itiveness. They believed. There wasn't a lot of panic when we were down. I mean that. Like, we never once were hitting the panic button and scrambling. Like, it was just about stay focused on the task at hand, continue to play how we play, and good things will happen eventually. And we just believed in ourselves that much. We thought we were that good.
Hmm.
We didn't think we were ever out of it. And there was, I look back to the Northeast series in round one, we were down 3 goals.
Yeah.
It wasn't panic. It was just, right, don't worry about the past three. Let's just focus on the next one, and then we'll go from there. And I think we were better for it. Like, I don't know, obviously, if we don't go through those challenges in round one and round two, we probably face adversity versus New Mexico and crumble. But I think because we had success coming from those situations, there wasn't panic. It was just like, hey, I said to my coach at one, this is what we do. This is just what we do. And it worked out perfectly. I think that adversity is so important. And I'm just bigger, and like, I know I'm labeled a hockey coach. I think when you grab that title as coach, there's so much more to coaching than just the on ice talent and ability, or whatever your sport may be. I believe in cultivating young men. Like, more often, these guys are going to go and support their families, not in the sport of hockey on the ice. It's going to be something else professionally. And I want to make sure that we help set positive steps for them and direction for them in terms of being successful in life and being good men and good leaders and husbands and fathers. And I think that's all part of it, right? Because life's not all perfect, and it's not always clean and easy. There's going to be bumps and challenges, and you're going to be defined mostly as a person with how you deal with those obstacles. So I think hockey is a great vehicle and platform for that, but I also want to make sure that our coaching staff has positive influences on them in terms of that, and how to deal with things when they're going great, and then also how to deal with things when they're not going your way.
Now, for you, you've been involved in hockey for over 30 years. You've been with the Rangers for a short period of time. You've been, of course, in different levels of hockey, and expand a little bit about yourself, but also here at the Titans. How did this opportunity come for you, before the 2015-16 season, and you've been able to build this team with the New Jersey Titans. Here you are with the championship. Just can you talk about that a little bit? This
Yeah, I think the first thing, it's not me building it. It's been a collection of dedicated, passionate individuals who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of care, a lot of conviction about who we are and how we do things. My hockey path is very, very unconventional.
Mm,
I didn't play ice hockey. Everyone looks at me and they laugh. I played high school ice hockey. Just growing up for me, it was a different circumstance in terms of our family dynamic, where that was going to be part of my athletic plan. We were blue collar. I'm better for it. I would tell you that. I love the sport, and I've always loved it. So it really didn't matter to me where I played. Coming out of college, like you had mentioned, I started coaching right when I got into college. I knew my career as a player was going to be short-sighted. So I wanted to stick with the sport, and I was able to coach a little bit. I was fortunate enough that one of my greatest mentors in hockey was working for the New York Rangers front office, and still is right now. And he got me a position with the New York Rangers. I started as an intern, and then was lucky enough to come on board full time there, and work with the team for many years. And it was a great experience for me in terms of, I was a Ranger fan, so that was pretty cool. And then getting to learn the inner workings of an organization, both from a front office standpoint and a hockey operations standpoint. And it motivated me throughout, because you have that pipe dream of maybe you get back there one day and wear a different hat. But it's something I've always tried to take experiences and practices from there, both positive and negative, and use that in my own coaching career. Coached with the Metro Moose after leaving Christ King High School. And, the Metro Moose, the kids I had there are some of the best people I've ever coached, and they're winners. we won a lot of games, and they're great people. And to see them now as great fathers and husbands, and see what they're doing in life in every different walk of life has been so fulfilling. One of them actually lives down in Middletown right now, and he's a very successful attorney who has a beautiful young family. So that's been great. And was lucky enough to go back into hockey full time with the New York Bobcats and the Long Island Gulls, and get into a big project on Long Island. Unfortunately, it didn't end out the way we would have all hoped, but it was a great experience for us. And I think we made a positive impact on a lot of lives in our short time there. And I've stayed in touch with many of those kids today. And, that leads me to the Titans. The Bobcats were forced under some not so fortunate circumstances to kind of be left without a league, a team, and a home. And that left me and my associate head coach, Bobby Dorico, kind of looking. And there was an opportunity that came about with the New Jersey Titans through a very close family friend, Joe Malafronte. And Joe was able to recommend us to George Haplin, who's the owner of the team and remains so today. George and I had known each other for many years prior to that, coaching against each other, being administrators of programs. And, George took a huge chance on Bobby and I, and kind of gave us the keys to the ship when I think a lot of people told him he was wrong or crazy for doing so because of our lack of playing experience and up to that point coaching experience. And here we are 6 years later. George started the Eastern Division in the North American Hockey League and was able to kind of get the league to branch out here on a leap of faith. And I think it's apropos that he was the first owner from an Eastern Division team to hoist the cup just 6 short years later. And had COVID not happened, it might have been a lot sooner. George has put a lot into the program. Him and his family have been the owners and the hierarchy of the program for many years now, both at the youth and junior level. And he's put a lot of faith into Bobby and I, and we've been able to add some great staff around us and really support and raise up the level. The new ownership group with Jimmy Solovey and his partners has helped us tremendously and taken our building and our organization to different strides. And it's, I think George's vision and kind of goals for the Titans is coming true day to day right now. And it's so great to be a part of it. I think our facility separates us in terms of what we can offer. And I think the people who are involved in our program in every type of matter are truly the definition of what it takes to get to a championship level.
You mentioned before we begin the interview about the facility. Can you talk a little more about that as well?
Yeah, I think it's funny. We wrapped up exit meetings with the players, and part of that is what do we do well? What do we need to do better? What can we? And every player, almost to a person, had commented about how much they not only enjoyed, but they felt they benefited from the work of the sports performance lab in our facility. Andrew Watkins, who's our head trainer, and his team have done a great job of preparing our players for every situation. And I think, what I've enjoyed the most is Andrew's been there for years. And I think that part of the program, the facility has improved every year as well to get to the point it is now where you have NHL and Division I players training there day to day in the off season. But also to see our players, we've had conversations year in and year out. When we wrap up, we always meet with the staff and have that kind of same reflection meeting. And Andrew and I, for years, Bobby and I were like, we got to get bigger. We got to get stronger. Our kids look tired. So Andrew was constantly pushing in the plan and developing better plans. And we want to find the perfect formula. And now you sit here as the year goes on, we have less injuries than ever before. Mm-hmm. Our maintenance of weight is the best it's ever been. The strength of our players was skyrocketing through the roof. Their hand-eye coordination and their brain training scores were constantly elevating. And then as you go through, you mentioned the overtime victories. So many people have complimented us on, you guys didn't look tired. You were still, quote unquote, making plays in overtime. And I think a lot of that could be attributed to the work they did all year, both on the ice for sure, but more off the ice in terms of their strength and conditioning work Monday through Thursday, the mental work that Andrew and his team put them through as well with their talks and their stretching and their mental preparation and meditating. I think that's all part of it. I never once felt like if this game doesn't end now, we're in trouble. I felt those games could have gone on forever and we would have had the upper hand. And I think a lot of it is the way we coached and kind of changed our practice plans this year to push a little bit more. But I also think it's the way Andrew and his team push the players in the gym day to day. And then obviously with the injuries and stuff like that, how they were able to minimize that and get the players back on the ice quickly. And our trainers, I told everyone, we went through that marathon in Jamestown and Shannon Smith, who was our athletic trainer that day, did such a great job of keeping the guys properly hydrated,
Mm.
properly fed, stretching them out, keeping them mentally strong. Maybe when they thought they were tired, she was telling them they weren't. She went above and beyond, and then she repeated it for us in Minnesota on the road with us. And her and Joe Abruzzo did a great job of keeping our players sharp and steady. And, you know, it's funny, everyone talks about ability. I heard a quote a long time ago that the best ability you could have is availability. And I think our players, in terms of missing games this year, their availability was through the roof. And I think that allowed us to use the length and strength of our roster and come out on top more often than not. So I think that's part of it. You know, the strength and conditioning lab that we have is just, it's an amazing place. You know, you combined it with, we own our own rink. So our players are on the ice so much. They have so much access to that. And they have access to the Therodynamics Rehab Center downstairs. So I just think in terms of like what we've always wanted, George and I, we've always talked about like just having the premier spot to play and develop and grow. And I think we have it now. And I think anyone who's been fortunate enough to be there sees it. Now it's about getting that out to the public more so they see it. But it's unbelievable. Like there's times where I come to work and I'm like, I can't believe this is where I work every day because we have every amenity available to serious hockey players. It's unbelievable. It's probably the envy of some pro and college programs as well in terms of that. And I just think it's a special place. I really do. I can't say enough good things about the program, the people involved with it, the facility, everything part of it is pretty spectacular.
So does that give you, at least maybe for, in your mind, or maybe from what you've seen so far, does that give a lot of their players an opportunity to jump further in their career, let's say the NHL or what have you?
I think it does. I think, you know, like anything else, it probably comes down to the players' willingness and desire to invest in their own personal careers, right? You could have every fancy tool or this, but if you don't use it and you walk by it every day, does it really matter? What we've always said is we want to provide that platform for the players internally to get there, and then obviously have those different amenities to attract the players to come into our facility and be part of our program moving forward. Like, you know, when you mentioned my New York Ranger experience before, what I was always enamored with was back then we always attracted the top free agents. And I think a lot of it had to do with the salary and the allure of New York City, but I also think it was how we treated the players there.
Yeah.
The training center was unbelievable and every need for them was catered to. They were really taken care of, where their focus was just about playing hockey to the best of their ability. And with us, I think we've tried to take that similar approach, take away as many distractions as we can, let them focus. For us, it's performance, but it's also development in junior and youth hockey, right? Let them focus as much on improving, getting better, getting to whatever their destination may be, and then making sure we do everything we can to support them on the ice and then all the other ancillary benefits that come along with being a Titan as well. And I think we've done a really good job. I think like anything else, it's going to be something that you're going to see we continue to do better and better. We're never going to be satisfied with where we are. And I think we realize that. So we're going to continue to push that envelope. But obviously, this is a big step for us in terms of winning a championship, having a big fancy cup and some banners here. And then obviously, you know, you have the players, you have their stories, right? Those are always your biggest recruiters. And they're going to be able to tell their stories of success and fun and how great the program was to many future generation hockey players who are younger and younger than them.
Let's go back to the championship game against Anchorage just for a little bit. You know, you guys are scoreless going into the second period. What's the bench like for you? What have you noticed as a coach? What was it like during intermission? And all of a sudden, second period, as is the case sometimes in hockey, as you know, sometimes things just come in bunches, and all of a sudden you get a couple of big goals. Brandon Dumas as well as Nick Rink scoring in that second period for you really got things rolling offensively.
Yeah, I'll be honest. There was a ton of conviction. There was throughout the whole process as we won the Mexico series preparation going into Anchorage. The pre-scout work done by the assistant coaches, Kyle Shapiro and Bobby DeRico, was as professional and sound as I've ever seen. I think I joked to them. I think they watched 9 hours of Anchorage on the day off, and their pre-scout game plan that they presented to the team on the off day was excellent. It was NHL like. We went over details in all three zones. We went over details at 5-on-5 PK PP, and I think they gave the guys a ton of great information while not oversaturating them and really remain focused on what we want to do, which probably led to so much confidence and conviction from the players, but me as well. Like, I never thought that game was in doubt. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I thought Mike and his team did a great job all year, and I think they had a brilliant hockey team. I just had so much belief and trust in our players at that point. I thought we were battle tested. I thought we had a lot of players and coaches who had a huge chip on their shoulder. And I thought there was a little bit of a refuse to lose mentality. As period one evolved, I thought we were playing our game. We dominated the shot clock. We really minimized their odd man rushes against, which I thought they had done a spectacular job of up to that point. They had been so opportunistic in the playoffs. Andrew Takis made a huge save with about 15 seconds to go in the first period on their leading goal scorer on a 2-on-1. And obviously you don't know how that happens, but I thought it was so poetic for Andrew to make a big save and then we take over. And then I thought as the second period went on, obviously, like you mentioned, we find the back of the net. I thought then we really began to lean and we could use the length and strength of our lineup on them, play the way we wanted to play. I thought our discipline with our F3 throughout the game was as pro-like as I had seen to that point. And then, like a lot of people had mentioned, our willingness of all of our players up and down the roster to lay out and block shots was tremendous. Andrew mentioned it in his post-game interview. You just saw we were not going to lose at that point. Like it wasn't an option and we were going to do whatever it took. And obviously for the little guys, that was just a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of meetings going into that second and third period where we had played as good as we did all year, quite frankly.
Absolutely. It was a hell of a culmination to an incredible season. It really was. I guess my last question for you is what's next for you guys as we come towards beginning of next season?
I think for us, we're excited. Like obviously, as you go through in the typical junior season, certain players are gonna move on to college hockey and whatnot and other levels. But we bring back such a strong core. I mean, this is as impressive as a returning core as we've had in my 6 years there, pardon me. And I think the players we've secured in the tender process and as we approach the draft here, it's an exciting time to be a Titan. We just chatted yesterday even with the owners just about where we stand in terms of looking forward. And I think every coach there is, as much as we want to reflect and enjoy what we just did, we're also excited to get back to work here because we want to run it back. Like we believe in the talent we have, and we think this only makes us stronger in terms of the recruiting process. So I think for us, the important thing for me right now, and I stress this to the players and I'll be stressing it to the staff, is I want to make sure that we all take time after the draft to kind of take a step back, appreciate what we've done, right? I think it's important that you miss the game a little bit and get away and reset because if you look at, I think that's why what the Lightning has done is so impressive. They've gone back to back and it's such a hard grind. I think you need to step away a little bit, spend some time with your family, your wife, your kids, and get away from it. That way, when you do come back, you have that hunger and passion going again. It's an exciting offseason for us. Our associate head coach, Bobby Dorico, is actually having his first baby this afternoon. So him and his wife have worked long and hard to get there. So it's an exciting day for us. And that'll be a great part of the offseason for us, seeing the baby in the cup and all those fun pictures that we'll have with that. But, it's right back to work, reflect, rewind a little bit, and obviously just reset here. And like we've joked about in the office, like we're not rebuilding here. We're just going to reload and get right back to work.
Get right back to work. Coach, fantastic. It was a pleasure to have you aboard here on Fox Sports New Jersey. And we look forward to talking to you and the team again down the road. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And hopefully we can have a conversation like this in roughly 12 months again.